Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. My name is Archana Sridhar. I'm a Senior Product Manager with AWS Config. Today, we are going to talk about how to get more out of AWS Config with the multi-account, multi-region advanced queries capability. Here's what I'd like to cover today. We'll first talk about the challenges of inventory management and configuration compliance management, and then discuss how AWS Config can be useful with its various features to address these two use cases. We will talk about a config aggregator, how to set one up, and we will also use the AWS Config advanced queries across multiple accounts and regions. We'll have a couple of demos and then open up some time for Q&A as well. All right, let's get started. So what is inventory management and why do you need it? Inventory management system basically maintains a real-time inventory of resources and their current as well as historical configurations. It helps answer questions such as what resources exist in my account and what does some of the latest configuration look like for these resources, and what relationships exist, if any, between these resources. It can tell what configuration changes have occurred on some of the critical workloads, let's say in the last week or last month or something like that, or which resources have any encryption disabled, and so on and so forth. Essentially, all this information is extremely valuable when you're investigating an operational issue or a security breach. Once you know the critical configuration information about your resources, you want to know if the resource configuration complies with baseline policies or best practices. Now, this could be policies designed to meet regulatory standards such as HIPAA or PCI, or they could be internal policies that are defined by your internal InfoSec team, or they could be a combination of both. Either way, you need a mechanism to define those policies and alert you if any of the resources violate these policies. And all of this comes under the umbrella of configuration compliance management. Together, inventory management and configuration compliance management help you to build your governance initiative and simplify compliance in your organization. And this is done by providing accurate information when you need it and assist you with decision making. Now, traditionally, this is supported by a configuration management database or a CMDB. Now, a traditional CMDB has its limitations when you want to manage your resources in the cloud. You need some capabilities that are specific and unique to the cloud. Because resources are dynamic in the cloud, you might have auto-scaling groups or spot instances where resources come and go multiple times in a day. You can't just rely on nightly jobs to discover these new resources in your account. You end up needing real-time discovery of new resources, as well as real-time recording of changes to your existing resources, so your incident and change management processes have all of the up-to-date and accurate information at any given time. You need to track configuration changes for your critical workloads and get alerted instantly. You need to put mechanisms in place in real time against your baseline policies to avoid getting out of compliance. So your CMDB needs to be able to access or it needs to be accessible via APIs so you can integrate with other tools. So basically, you need a cloud-aware CMDB in order to be able to manage the cloud resources. And that's where AWS Config comes in handy. AWS Config is a native tool within AWS integrated with other key AWS services such as CloudFormation, CloudTrail, CloudWatch, and AWS organizations that can help in inventory management and configuration compliance management. So from an inventory management perspective, AWS Config discovers resources automatically in real time without using an agent. It tracks configuration changes to those resources and maintains a configuration history for up to 7 years by default. So you can use them for operational troubleshooting purposes. From a configuration compliance standpoint, config gives you the ability to define policies with config rules and evaluate resources against these policies either periodically or based on configuration change. So config rules come as managed config rules out of the box, and then you can create your own custom config rules as well. Config also alerts you in real time about configuration and compliance changes, so you can take corrective action, and we'll talk about that. Config is integrated with AWS organizations, so you can view your resource inventory and the compliance status of your resources across your entire organization, so all the accounts in the organization. And lastly, quite importantly, in some use cases, you can easily integrate it with your own ITSM and CMDB tools, such as ServiceNow, so you can continue to make use of your existing investments. So config can serve as your cloud CMDB or your continuous configuration auditor to support your inventory management as well as configuration compliance management efforts. Now, let's talk about a few more use cases config can help you with. Config is commonly used for audit and compliance reasons, since it maintains a change log for all configuration changes that occur to your resources. Config keeps track of the compliance history so that you know when your resources went in and out of compliance with respect to one or more config rules. It's used for operational governance. For example, you can evaluate your CI/CD pipeline configuration to ensure auto rollback is enabled on the pipeline, or for cost optimization purposes. So by identifying resources that are unused and then giving you the option and control to take action on them. AWS Config is also commonly used for security intelligence. For example, reviewing the changes that occurred after a security breach or identifying resources that are not encrypted. Again, as we mentioned before, config can be easily integrated with your own ITSM tools to enable change management and incident management workflows as needed. Let's talk about some of the additional key features of AWS Config that can help you with these use cases. Now, primarily, we talked about recording configuration changes and setting up config rules as part of what AWS Config offers. Config also has remediation with config rules. Now, remediation can be automatic or on-demand or manual remediation. Either way, this feature allows you to take corrective actions once a non-compliant resource is detected. For example, if an EC2 security group is wide open to the world on port 22, you can associate a remediation action to automatically fix the security group settings. Alternately, if you want a ticket to be opened or a notification to be sent, you can choose to do that. Essentially, any action or a set of actions even that you want to take on non-compliant resource at an individual rule level, you can set that up with remediation. Automatic remediation makes use of the SSM automation document, so you can use the ones that are provided out of the box or create your own as well. Another feature we offer with AWS Config is conformance packs. Conformance packs allow you to package a collection of config rules and remediation actions into a single entity known as a conformance pack, which can easily be deployed across an entire organization with a single click. It is meant to simplify the deployment of config rules and remediation actions across multiple accounts. So it simplifies compliance reporting, as compliance summaries can now be presented at an individual pack level. Another key advantage of using conformance packs is immutability. So if an organization master deploys a conformance pack across its member accounts, the rules within that pack cannot be modified or deleted by those member accounts. This is useful when you as a central IT admin wants to put some policies or rules in place that can't be tampered with. Config also allows you to use config basically for recording changes in resources that are non-AWS resources, such as Active Directory, GitHub repositories, or SaaS tools such as Datadog. All right, let's move to multi-account, multi-region data aggregation. Until now, we talked about inventory management and configuration compliance management with the various capabilities that AWS Config has to offer. Let's talk about how these can be used across accounts and across multiple regions. When you need to monitor across multiple accounts and regions, you need the ability to create views that can give you specific perspective of your infrastructure for the specific use case that you're looking for. Now, that's where this capability of data aggregation comes in handy. You can set up a config aggregator that can pull resource configuration and compliance data from selected accounts in your organization or across all of the accounts in your organization. You can pick and choose which regions you want to record. And based on the accounts selected, the data aggregated view provides resource inventory as well as compliance data, making it simpler for you to visualize and monitor the overall state of your organization. Data aggregation comes at no additional cost. So if you're already recording configuration changes in your accounts and you already have config rules or policies that have been set up with config rules, the data aggregation comes at no additional cost. It's different views that you can create to address your use cases. All right, let's do a quick demo. Let's set up an AWS config aggregator going from the AWS config console. Here's the dashboard. Basically, I'm looking at the resource inventory of all of the resources that are in my particular account. And then I'm also looking at all of the rules that are set up on this account. So there's, and then at a glance, the rule compliance data. In the resource inventory, I can see all of the resources that are in this particular account. I can add filters for specific types of resources that I want to see. I can add filters for compliance status. So I can just look at all of these details in the resource inventory page right here. I can choose to view the rules. So these are some of the rules that are added into my account. I can add new rules, pick from the available managed rules, or add my own custom rules, and set up remediation workflows as well for managed as well as for custom rules. Let's focus on aggregators for today's demo. So in the aggregators view, you can see that I already have some aggregators added here. At a glance, you can see the resource inventory and compliance status, but let's create the new aggregator first. So within the aggregator, I want to give access for config to bring in data from source accounts into the aggregator account. I'm going to give this a name. And today, I want to add all accounts from my organization and bring in to this aggregator. This means that any future accounts that get added to the organization get linked in to this aggregator as well. I need to choose a role. Basically, this is attaching the policy that can bring in the hit the APIs from the AWS organization and bring the necessary data. I want to select the regions from where I need the data to come in. Now, this is completely up to you. You can choose all regions or create different aggregators for combination of regions if you need different visibility for different regions. I'm going to select all regions for the purposes of this demo. And then I'm also going to check this box that says include future AWS regions. This means that if any accounts get created in future AWS regions, we will bring in that data as well. I'm going to go ahead and create the aggregator. It takes a little while for the data to be refreshed into the demo aggregator that I just created. As you can see, the data is still getting pulled up. So what we'll do is we'll look at another aggregator that I have in this account, which basically pulls data from individual accounts. So this is the other type of aggregators as we talked about before in the aggregator creation process. As you can see, there is the resource inventory information from all of the member accounts, as well as compliance status of all of the rules from those member accounts. I can go into different views here. I can go into the rules view under the aggregator, select the aggregator that I want to see the rules aggregated information for. And this can show me all the rules that the accounts are compliant or non-compliant with. I can go to the resources view and look at the overall resources and what their status is. It gives a full resource inventory for all of the accounts underneath that particular aggregator. Now I'm going to go back to the aggregator view. And then this time, I want to see what is going on with the demo aggregator that I just created. So let's take a quick look. It has pulled in information from all of the member accounts and the resource inventory and compliance status for those accounts. So that's how you set up an aggregator. Let's now talk about AWS Config's advanced queries feature. This capability allows you to query the configuration of a resource based on its properties. So this is really valuable because now you have a single endpoint to query exactly what you need without performing an AWS service-specific API call. It uses a subset of the SQL select as a query language. You no longer need to describe individual resources across each account and region to fetch the info that you're looking for. Instead, you can leverage this feature. There are some sample queries that are provided out of the box for you to get started. Advanced query is available at no additional cost for AWS Config customers. Again, as you're already recording the data and you already have the rules and policies in place. It's available in all public regions and in the Gov Cloud. Some additional use cases where advanced query is helpful for you. Let's talk about that really quickly. You can use advanced queries for inventory management, for identifying EC2 instances of different sizes or in different regions, so on and so forth. You can use it for cost management. For example, you can search for EBS volumes that aren't attached to any EC2 instances. You can use it for change management to understand the impact of a change or by looking at the resource relationships. And you can use it for security management by searching for resources that are publicly accessible. Getting started is really easy. We've already talked about the data aggregator. So let me give you a quick demo of that. We are back at the dashboard again. Let's take a quick look. We created the aggregator. So let's go to the aggregator that we already created. Here, the aggregator has the data that we need, and we will use the advanced queries now and select some of the available options. Okay, so as you can see, there are about 58 out-of-the-box sample queries, and you can modify them to make them your own. So for example, let's start with a few use cases and see how we can make use of the queries. For example, let's say I want to take a look at all of the EC2 instances that are currently running. Yep. So we open this. Okay, excellent. So as you can see, this is first run in my account and region only. Yep, you can see the EC2 resources that are running in my system. Now, I can choose the aggregator that we created. That's the scope of the query. And now you can see a lot more resources because now I'm running it across all of the accounts and regions that I set up the aggregator for. Let's say I want to take a look at the EC2 instances in a specific availability zone. So I'm going to pick an availability zone here and yeah. So this is a smaller subset, as you can see. Okay. That looks good. Let's go ahead and try another use case. Let's see. I can look at the Dynamo tables with server-side encryption disabled, or let's actually look at the unused. I want to see all EBS volumes that are not in use. As you know, these still incur costs. So from a cost management perspective, this can be super helpful. Let's say I want to look at all of those EBS volumes in my aggregator. Yeah. So instead of going through the full list, I want to export them. So this provides you the ability to export it as a CSV and take a look and use it for reporting purposes. So I'm going to open this really quickly. So as you can see, it provides the same data that you see in the query results as an export. All right, this time, let's list all resources related to a particular security group. Since AWS Config captures the relationships between resources and normalizes it in the form of a configuration item, we can use that to query the relationship. So let me see, I know of a security group that exists in my account, so I'm going to use that to run this query. So as you can see, there is a CloudFormation stack and another EC2 instance and more. So the relationship query can go across multiple services. All right, let's try another one. I want to look at the compliance count. Let's say I want to look at the count by compliance. So here is the count in my account and region. And if I want to, at a glance, look at this across multiple accounts and regions, it helps visualize different bits and pieces of data and helps in decision making for inventory management as well as for configuration compliance management. Okay, so here are some additional resources in terms of tech docs and the resource schema on GitHub, and then pricing and some blog posts that can help you with exploration of the capabilities that I just described and we just talked about in the demos. So to summarize, we talked about the importance of inventory management and configuration compliance management and how AWS Config can help with its various capabilities, such as data aggregation, automatic remediation, advanced queries, so on and so forth, and how they can be helpful as the configuration auditor for the cloud. I really encourage you all to try out these capabilities and let us know what you think. Thank you so much for joining the webinar today. We'll now open up for some Q&A.